thank you for joining us for another episode of Calling All Angels, brought to you by Lifehouse Church out of Groton. And today we're going to be talking with Shelly, who has an amazing life story to tell us, full of miracles, faith, and the Lord. Hi, Shelly. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great.
Good. So I noticed that you have an accent.
I do.
Where are you from?
I grew up in North Carolina all my life.
North Carolina. And so how long have you lived here in Connecticut?
Well, I have been here probably 10 years.
Oh, nice.
I had went back and then came back, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So for reasons, and yeah.
How do you like it here?
I love it here.
Yeah?
My mother lived here, and I came up.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she was great. She was such a woman that loved the Lord almost as much as I do.
Wow.
She was
so
awesome.
Your life with the Lord started many, many years ago.
Yes.
And I'm excited to hear about your life with the Lord. So let's start about how it all began.
Well, and I was adopted at age 4, and at 7, when I was 7, I got saved. I went down to the altar. I'll never forget it. Went down to the altar and prayed, and there was such a peace over me, a peace that I never had, because the first 4 years in my life was not happy. There was lots of things that happened, and when that happened, I knew I had a father. I saw my father one time, and he wouldn't let me in his house when the adoption papers were signed, and I stood on the porch, and it's okay though. God took care of me, and it was amazing.
Wow.
It was amazing what God did, and my great aunt adopted me.
Wow.
And she was an old maid. And this was in the 1960.
Okay, nice.
And it was a miracle, because you normally have a husband and a wife in that time to be adopted.
Right, so they don't usually let just a single woman, or at least they didn't,
No.
adopt a child. So
No.
you're right, that was a miracle that they
It was
actually
a
let her
miracle.
adopt you.
Yes.
Yay.
God did it. And she worked in a textile mill. I mean, she wasn't rich,
Right.
nothing like that.
She's just a
And-
humble soul.
Yes, and God did that. I
That's
know
where you were meant to be. That's
Yeah.
where the Lord wanted to raise you up.
it was. And when I got saved, I knew I had a father, even if he wasn't in my seeing vision.
Right.
But I knew he was always with me, and he's always been with me. Always.
That's amazing. So you said that you went to the altar when you were 7. Tell me a little bit about that.
I just was squalling. You know, I knew that I had been baptized and everything, christened, sorry. And I knew that that was something I wanted.
Yeah.
And I loved the Lord already before that, but because my great aunts, they were the Phillips Trio. They used to travel all over the country singing
Oh, really?
on the radio.
Wow.
And so they were so good to me, and they taught me so much stuff about God, you know, and I just loved it.
Wow.
And I started loving Him more and more, and I wanted to go up and get saved.
Wow. So when you got saved, did you feel any? What did you
did.
tell me all about it?
It was just totally peace for me. And I was just so excited because I had a father now that I could talk to.
Wow.
I never had a father to talk to. And in all these years, and I'm 61, I'm still talking to him. He's absolutely awesome. And you just cannot live without him.
Wow.
You just can't. He's got your back with everything. You know, it's just wonderful.
I think it's so beautiful that you had sound mind at 7 years old to find your Father in heaven. So tell me about the journey. After you got saved, what's the first thing that you remember that just really stands out in your mind with you and your father?
There are so many stories after I got married because I grew up in the Methodist church. Nothing wrong with the Methodist church, but I wanted more. I wanted a relationship with him, and so I started praying about it. And my mother here in Connecticut, when my first child was born, Caroline, my mother died 2 weeks after she was born, that adopted me. And my mother came down 6 months later and she said, I'm going to find you a church. And she did. And it was a full gospel church, and it was non-denominational. And that's where my relationship with him started.
And
I mean, I'd always had him and always loved him.
right.
But the personal thing with him one-on-one, and him doing these things when I had a battle.
So how old were you
When
when the personal relationship blossomed?
I think I was 30.
30 years old.
Yes.
And you saw the huge difference between loving him and that personal relationship.
Absolutely. Everybody needs a close relationship to him, because I could go and pray, and I would raise my hands and I'd tell him exactly what was wrong in my heart, what was going on, what was, things were awful in some time.
Sure.
My first husband was an alcoholic, and we had so many battles,
Yeah.
and I gave them all to him, and he would show me what he did.
Wow.
And there was no explanation except that God did that.
Wow. That's beautiful.
It was amazing, and I said, oh my, I have an awesome God
You do.
who is
You
always
do.
with me,
Yes.
and he's awesome.
He is awesome. So you had the child and you were going through all this trauma with your first husband, which is, I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but I feel like that helps to form us into this beautiful masterpiece that he wants us to be,
Yeah.
like a pillar almost.
Yeah.
So you're going through this and you're calling on the Lord, and it's not like it was before, because now you have a personal relationship with him and you can hear him. And I know my journey is kind of the same way,
Yeah.
where I actually believed that I loved him, and then I realized I tried to believe in him, and I tried to love him,
Yeah.
but I didn't. It wasn't until I actually loved him that I realized that I never really believed and I never really loved. And then
Yeah.
once you start to love God, it's like you pursue him like a true
You
love.
do.
It's a true love. It's
That's-
not like something in a box where we put little pictures on the wall and wear a cross and call it a day. That's, it's true love, and you pursue
is.
him and you love him and you think about him day and night, and he's with you all the time. It's amazing.
It is.
Between thinking that you believe and truly believing, thinking that you love and truly loving. That's what love looks like. It doesn't
Yes,
look
it
like a
is.
box. It looks
Yeah.
like a pursuit. Like, I want him all the time in my life.
Me too.
Every second. He comes before anything else. And so yes, I see exactly where you're coming from between thinking that you believe and I'm going to go to heaven, and then that little tinge of maybe.
Yeah.
That maybe is completely shattered.
I
It's
know.
not there anymore. And that's the difference between loving and thinking that you love and truly loving. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it is amazing.
He doesn't become a maybe. He becomes a everything.
It is.
So yeah. So and I just love to hear stories like this. It just it excites me, and I just want to grab onto you and hug you, and you're my sister.
Yeah, I know. It's
tell me all
awesome.
about what my dad said to you.
Yeah.
So tell me some of the great things that you've seen transpire in your life.
I have a story that I have already shared. I don't know if you want me to do that one.
I want you to share everything.
Well, let me give you one. There's, and I'll give you the other one that we shared at the Waterford place.
Sure.
One night I took my girls to church, and they were in school, and I took them, and it was on a Wednesday night, you know, and my husband came home, and when I got back home after the church service, he was mad. I mean, he raved. He said, they need their sleep. They're going to school tomorrow. I said, it's fine, but they're gonna know who God is,
God first.
and they're gonna learn in this, you know, Wednesday nights. So he went in the bedroom and shut the door. I put my girls to bed and got them fixed and, you know, set for school the next day. And I was sitting, I always did, sitting in the living room, and I would just come like this and start talking to him what was on my mind. I said, Lord, you know I did the right thing.
Right.
I'm putting my children in the church. I want them to know you.
Right.
And I said, you're just going to have to show him he's wrong. Well, and I said, you're going to have to tell him he's wrong. So anyway, Saturday morning he had to take me to the hospital to go to work. And he said, I've got something to tell you. And I said, what is it? And he said, you know, Wednesday night, I was laying in the bed and I was asleep. He said, and I woke up and I saw 3 angels standing over me. And he thought he was dreaming. And he said, they raised their hands and said, you were wrong. You were wrong. You were wrong. They woke him up 3 times.
That's amazing. I love it.
It was amazing.
It is so amazing.
And I knew it was warring angels because God knew what I was doing with my children, and I kept them in the church, and we, you know, they learned who God was, and they still do.
Right, right. See, that's amazing. God will go straight to battle for you.
He will.
He will send his angels.
Yes.
And they're always, I mean, that's the purpose.
It is.
Yeah, that's the purpose of the angels here on earth, is to battle for us.
Yes.
So how cool is that they actually went to battle for you? Like, he saw them.
He saw them.
That's huge.
He sure did.
That's huge.
I mean, I would have never known.
That's the power and the love, the
Yes.
individual love of God. It's hard to fathom that He loves us each individually, because there's so many of us, but He hears us and He caters to us when we're right and when we're doing things for Him. And
Absolutely. I trust Him.
yes.
We have to trust Him.
We have to trust Him with every ounce of our heart, even
Yes,
when
we
things
do.
don't seem like they're going right.
Yeah.
That's actually when they're going when things are transforming and turning into something beautiful for the bigger picture.
Yeah.
It's not all about us sometimes, you know.
No.
There's a bigger picture, and sometimes when we're going through something, it's to help somebody else.
Oh,
And that right
absolutely.
there helped your husband. It probably instilled a lot of faith in
It
him that
did.
he probably didn't have before.
It did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a beautiful story. I
It was
love
awesome. It was totally awesome. The other story that I know I have already shared with you, but I want to share it again.
Share it 1,000,000 times. It's a beautiful story. I love this story.
God was so good to me, and when I came back up the second time, I came back in April, and I already had a job, I already had a place to live. God had orchestrated the whole thing for me to put it in place. He put it in place, and He always did that for me, and He still does. If you listen to Him, you'll know what He wants you to do, because He orchestrates it. He has His plan already. Don't take your own plan.
So when you say that, listen to Him, what exactly do you mean?
I'll tell Him, you know, well, like when I was down south, I stayed down there a year. And there was a reason why I needed to stay a year. I told God, I said, I will move, because he had died. And I said, well, I'll stay until you tell me I need to leave. And everything was orchestrated perfect.
So you saw the signs, the signs lined up.
Yeah, I had a job. I had
Okay.
an ex-employer called me and said, I hear you're coming back. I want you to interview. And I
Beautiful.
flew up and interviewed and got the position back.
Yay.
And it was just amazing. Everything went into place. And I'm like, I'm going to do this always.
Yes.
Always. Everything that's going on in my life, I want God to show me. What is it do I want to do? Do you want me to do?
Right.
I want you to show me.
Right.
And I think one of these is that.
I do too.
I do. But
I
anyway,
do.
let me quickly say this. In September 1st was my birthday, and in 2011 I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And you know, I couldn't believe I had it. So anyway, we went through chemo. And in between chemo, they took the breast off. And they told me that I had to have radiation. I went through 2 rounds of chemo, and I did quite well. They couldn't believe I could drive myself home. I said, no, God takes care of me. I'm fine. And so when I started the radiation, I said, you know what? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were in the fiery furnace. And I am not going to get burnt, because the big lady that was over that talked to me, and she said, you can get 30-degree burns. I said, oh no, I'm not going to get that. No, I'm not. I refuse that. So I went through 2 rounds of radiation. I never got burnt. And so when it was over, she called me in her office and she said, how'd you do that? And I said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't get burned in the fiery furnace, and I didn't either. And that was my fiery furnace, you know. And God did that. He did that. And He's just amazing.
He is amazing. And the doctors were amazed by this, right? They thought it was like...
All of my doctors, my
Yeah.
surgeons, 2 surgeons, my oncologist, and the radiation, they all are still talking about my case because it was so different. And they knew that God did it.
See?
They knew it.
See, and that's just a wonderful, beautiful, awesome testament that when we go through something so hard, that it goes back to, even though we're going through this difficult thing, it's for the bigger picture. It's not always about us.
That's right.
You know, the story will probably save people, will probably inspire people, give them hope,
Yeah.
and get faith.
I hope so. You know, I have trusted Him so long, and when the relationship started, it was like, oh, Lord He's just wonderful. How can you live without Him? I can't live without Him.
No, there's no reason.
He's the first I talk to when I wake up, you know.
Yeah, and that's such a beautiful way to wake up.
It is.
Instead of all the heavy burdens that are in life just weighing you down and making you not want to get out of bed in the morning.
Absolutely.
You wake up and he just takes
Yeah.
all that away. You wake up and you're like, what adventures are we going on to today?
I know, He's so awesome. You know, I can't live without Him. I mean, He is my Father.
Yes.
He couldn't, I mean, you know, I never had a human father, but I have a spiritual father that's with me all the time.
Yes, I never had a father either, and I've had people say don't you miss it? And I'm like, well, honestly, it's hard to miss something that you've never had.
That's
you know,
right.
so I never really did miss not having a father. But now that I have God as my father, it's amazing to me, and it makes me happy that I never did have a dad, because I've heard of people comparing their fathers to the Father in heaven, and some dads are very strict.
Yeah.
And I don't have that to compare to. I just know what the Lord gives me, and I don't feel like a strict finger pointing. I just feel like there's such love that it's amazing. What is the most amazing thing to me is that before I really loved God, I pictured from reading the Bible myself and not having the Holy Spirit, I pictured a God pointing to the ground. You get down on your knees and you're going to worship me and you're going to do all these things that I tell you to do. And I'm just like, that kind of, turned me away a little bit. But after searching for him with all my heart and all my soul and everything that I had, because this life was failing me, even though it seemed like it was perfect, there was something inside that was just failing. And I searched for him, and the Holy Spirit came over top of me, and I fell to my knees. My flesh fainted before the Lord, and the love made it impossible to stand. So there was no finger pointing.
Absolutely.
It was falling on your knees from the love.
I hear you.
And there was no confessing because he's pointing. It was God, I'm so sorry for this and that. But it wasn't like a finger pointing confession. It was more like, I love you so much. I just want to please you and do everything that I can. And I see the distance that I've created. And it wasn't a finger pointing confession. It was more like I love you so much, God. I'm so sorry. What can I do for you? And
Absolutely.
and it's amazing that the world has this God over here with the finger pointing, and then the Holy Spirit moves in you, and you get the true God.
Yes, you do.
The true God that there's no finger. It's just a hug and a love that
It is. And
you can't
can
compare
totally
it to
feel
human love. Yeah, you can't compare it. You cannot compare the godly love to human love. It's just overwhelming, and it changes your life, and you pursue it.
Yeah.
It becomes an obsession because it's
Absolutely.
so immense. If you haven't felt that love, if anybody hasn't felt that love, search for it.
Absolutely.
Search for it, because there
You're
is
missing
nothing
out
like it.
if you don't have it.
If you are not
just
searching with all your heart and soul, with everything that you have, do it now. And the way to search for it, I found for me, was just taking time out and just going out into the woods or in my car, away from the entire world, the world that was letting me down, and only looking for God.
Absolutely.
And spending time with him. I remember sleeping in my car night after night
Wow.
on that search, because I knew he was there. There was that cement slab separating me and God. That cement. I've been hurt so bad. I am not able to let anything grow inside of me or let anything, and God just had to smash that. And I just remember being so sad, and it was the Holy Spirit pushing up through that soil in me and breaking and smashing that cement, and I shattered. I just remembered I just didn't. There was part of me that just didn't want to live anymore because of the world. And then the Holy Spirit just came like a tidal wave.
It's awesome.
It's amazing.
It is so amazing.
And unless you've experienced it, people are going to be like, "Oh, you're crazy."
I
Unless you've
know.
experienced, they're like, "Those people are crazy."
They're just missing out on a wonderful blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, my husband and I, we can be reading the Bible, and he says, "Oh, the Holy Spirit is all over me on this verse," and I love it.
Yes.
And we both, it happens.
It happens all the time.
And you can be somewhere else, and the Holy Spirit goes over you, and you know.
Like today,
Hey,
getting
he's right
ready
here.
for this today, I was on the floor. I'm trying to do my makeup, and I'm on the floor. And God's just talking to me, and all this stuff is pouring into me, and It's amazing because you never know when he's gonna come for you.
No.
You never know. You could be driving down the road and then suddenly,
I know.
yeah.
I know, and I
Yeah.
cry a lot too.
Yeah, I mean all the time.
It's not that I'm sad.
It's joy.
It is.
It's a sadness for the world and the things of the world, but it's joy of this love that's overcoming you. It's
You know, that's so funny though. He said to me one time, he said, you will have joy, overwhelming joy.
Yes.
So much that you won't know what to do with all of
yeah,
it.
it's hard to function. The joy makes it hard to function sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, like to even drive. I've had to pull over because I can't even see. It's
And it's amazing because I didn't always have
me either.
joy,
Me either.
but I have joy. My
Yes.
joy is getting bigger and bigger.
Yes.
And it's
yes.
amazing. God's amazing.
The only prayer I pray is just to be closer to Him. Come into me more and more and
Yes.
more. Because I'm addicted.
Me too. I said, Lord, you show me what you want me to do, and I will do it.
Yes, yes. Fill me.
Yes.
Fill me so nothing else gets in there, especially myself. I don't want me in there. I want you in there.
Absolutely.
Take me over.
I agree, girl. That's good.
Shelley, it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming, and
Thank you.
I look forward to us hanging out.
Okay, sounds
right.
great.
All
I'd
right.
love to.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you all for joining us for this episode of Calling All Angels, and we look forward to seeing you next week.